So, Corona has created an environment that has brought all of us closer to each other than ever before, but it has also separated and distanced us in a way that has never been experienced before. So, what is your take on that?
Um, I definitely think that more than it bringing us closer to each other, it has brought us closer to who we are as people. Yes, of course, families have bonded and people have, there are other instances where people have been really away from their families. But at the same time, we've all got such a beautiful opportunity to spend so much time with ourselves and rediscover who we are. And I say rediscover only because we're not the same people as we were yesterday. So it is really important for us to get to know ourselves better every day. And I think the pandemic gave us the opportunity to really find out who we are and what we want to do and what kind of life do we want to lead? What kind of people do we want to be? And that's, I think, the question that really started bothering some people. But yeah, I do think that there are a lot of people who've suffered on the brink of this because being away from your family is really difficult. And a lot of people who are in difficult job scenarios have had to do that as well. So um, yeah, but for me personally, I got a lot of time to spend with my family just before I got married. So it was a very beautiful journey for me, for sure.
Okay, congratulations. So, how has this impacted you
Thank you.
professionally?
Professionally, it's impacted me a lot because the entire graph of what mental health looked like has changed now because I think everybody has taken a lot of notice. Being in isolation, people have come to realize the importance, not because, oh, they've suddenly woken up and realized, but because it's personally now affected majority of the people and no one has been able to ignore it. It came to that point where now everyone's just like, okay, yeah, we've all, I'm so sorry. My phone
No
is
problem.
just yeah, but I think it's come to a point where everybody cannot ignore it. We can't cover it up with work. We can't cover it up with socializing. We can't cover it up with XYZ thing that we always find. Now we had to come face to face with it, and that's where we got like mental health professionals were impacted because we did not see that coming. Nobody saw it coming, but it was just burnout, in the sense of like taking on so much work because for the first time, when somebody's paying attention to your field, you want to like grab every opportunity you get without realizing how it's impacting you then. So I think that's what happened with me initially, but I figured out a pace to deal with it. I figured out how do I set my boundaries but I am extremely like grateful for every opportunity I got during this time and for every human being I could interact with and impact. So no complaints whatsoever.
We have a long list of questions for you that have come from the youth, which are around the same age group as you are. And these are
Hmm.
the people who are struggling with these questions. So I'm quite sure that whatever you share with us will be of great value to the 40 lakh youth the Rakshin Project is reaching to across the country. So just one second. I'm not sure if you know, but the Rakshin Project is a youth-led movement across the country which aims to stop child sexual abuse. So, but before we begin formally, let me just introduce you briefly for our friends and all the viewers we have with us today. So, Jasdeep Mago, you are a neuropsychologist and the co-founder of Invisible Illness India, with an ambition to spread awareness about mental health while also professionally pursuing it. You have started Invisible Illness India as an organization which is dedicated to raising awareness on holistic wellness while paying special attention to mental health. Your team consists of mental health professionals and well-being advocates, and you offer multiple services to individuals across the country and organizations as well. So, can we jump into the questions now?
Of course.
So, you're a neuropsychologist, so you're forever
Hmm.
working with questions on how people perceive themselves, identity crisis, and so on. So, if I was to ask you to give me three words on how you perceive yourself, what would you say?
This is a very interesting question. I don't think I ever get asked these questions. I'm always the one asking these questions. Um, for me, the three things that, three adjectives I would use how I perceive myself is that I am very perceptive as a person. So I can pick up on what's happening around me, even though if it's not vocally suggested. I'm supremely empathetic. I think it works against me most of the times. And I would say that I think I should include something bad because I'm saying nice things. I should say one thing bad. But no, I'm not going to. I think I'm a really kind person. And I know that it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I think that it's required.
Was it this kindness which pushed you into the profession?
Yes, it was it was actually all three of the points that I named is the reason why I'm here where I am. It's not because I'm hardworking, it's not because I'm intelligent, it's not any of those things. It's purely because I'm so empathetic and the kindness is it just gets involved in that process that it doesn't like you feel like it's something that's unstoppable. So
So these three words you use to describe yourself, are they the same three words that your friends and family would also use, given that they were asked the same question?
I think they would, yes. I think they would.
So absolutely no difference.
No, I think definitely they would add two, three more words like short-tempered, moody. I think they would add two, three more words, but I think they would agree to the three that I have said.
So nowadays, everywhere that we turn, we hear stories about stress, we hear stories about anxiety, insecurities, and even before Corona, as per statistics, anxiety disorder came in many forms which affected millions of adults. So research states that it is often highly treatable, and only one third of people actually end up getting cured or finding solutions. So we at Sakshi as an organization, we are constantly emphasizing about the importance of mental health. So tell us from your work, how can the statistics that only one third of people can actually find a cure and get better can change and actually increase the number of people who find solutions?
I think the first and foremost step for that would be to recognize what you're going through in order for you to treat it or cure it. Or recover or even move towards the journey of growth, you have to know that this is a problem or that this is a condition or it's a situation in your life or it's something that needs some work. Um, and in order for us to know that, we have to be that aware of who we are and how we feel and what makes us feel that way. You know, what is triggering that one feeling that suddenly erupts? Or if there is no trigger, then what is the feeling where is the feeling coming from? And I think that is the journey of realizing that this is how I want to move towards growth or move towards recovery or move towards cure or treatment. Any word that you'd like to use. For me, it's just growth. So any form of, where you realize, understand yourself and want to take a step ahead to, for the lack of better word, I'm going to say fix it. Um, I call that growth. So, in order for us to get to that point, we first have to know that ऐसा कुछ चल भी रहा है तुम्हारे अंदर, कुछ ऐसा हो भी रहा है. तो, and then only you can move ahead. So, yeah.
So talking about moving ahead, what are some activities that you would recommend in daily life which would help to reduce this anxiety and the stress?
At the top of my head, I'm going to say what is essential, not for anxiety only, but just for overall well-being. I would say that uh, having a rough schedule in life, a daily routine. And by me saying daily routine, I mean in terms of sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm, in terms of your food intake, in terms of exercise, having all of that in place, then having something in your life that nourishes your inner self, not just your exterior, not just self-care in the sense of me taking care of my body and my face and my hair, but in the sense of something that nourishes me from within, something that not just makes me look good and feel good, but also lasts longer than that. So it could be meditation, it could be mindfulness, it could be prayer, it could be religion, it could be chanting, it could be any of those things. But having that in your life, plus having a stable daily routine, really impacts the way your body and mind function in unison. And that has a deep impact on specifically anxiety, like what we eat, the time we wake up, the time we sleep, whether we exercise or not, has a huge correlation towards how anxious you feel, or how well you're feeling, and how things trigger you, and how well you're able to handle it or respond to it or react to it. So to begin with, I would say start with, trying to get your daily routine to somewhat have some consistency. Include exercise, and when I say exercise, I don't mean go to the gym, I don't mean join HIIT or whatever it is. I just mean simply do a 20-minute activity in the day, even if that's walking, even if it's simply standing, it's still your body is active. You're getting endorphins, which is a free a mood enhancer. So why not use it? And it is the best mood enhancer and works best with anxiety, because it also relieves all your anxious pent up energy. It relieves that. So, it's one of the best ways to deal with an anxiety situation is pacing. A lot of people pace because it relieves that. Apart from that, I strongly recommend mindfulness or any spiritual activity. And I'm not trying to propagate religion here. This is very far from religion. It's mainly just about introspection, reflecting, drawing your energy into your breath, observing your thoughts, and just observing it, not judging them, not questioning them, just observing your thoughts as they are. That can really turn your world around.
Thank you so much. I think that was very helpful to a lot of people. So tell us, how can we differentiate depression from simply being sad? And what are the warning signs that someone is thinking of taking the drastic step of actually committing suicide?
Okay, before I say anything, I'd just like to tell the viewers, like, trigger warning, just in case if this is triggering for any of you, then please feel free to tune out. So with depression and purely sadness, the only measure that we really see is how deeply is it impacting your everyday life. That is, are you able to go to work? Are you able to eat, sleep, exercise, socialize? Are you motivated? Do you feel like getting out of bed? Do you want to meet your friends? Do you have the will and the hope of just living life? If all of those things are not there, and if they are interfering with your daily life, like you're not able to feel motivated enough to get to work every day, you're not able to eat and sleep appropriately, you don't feel like going out, you don't feel like meeting your friends, you feel like isolating yourself. When it's coming to that point where your sadness is disrupting the regularity of your life, is when we consider that a clinical issue. And, I'm not one to sort of throw a lot of clinical terms around, so I'm going to refrain from it. But it just means that it may be a little more severe than simply being upset. So even with grief, after losing a loved one, we say that, yes, of course, there is a grieving period, and you're allowed for your grief to disrupt your life, to say so. But if that grief period crosses a certain amount of time, and we generally say 8 months, we then consider that a clinical condition that we need some more attention towards. So yeah, I would say if it starts to interfere with your daily functionality, your activities of daily living, then it's something to really, see a professional, go to a doctor, go to a therapist, go to a counselor. It will definitely help.
So you've spoken
Oh, and
very
you also asked suicide signs. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but I think the signs to look out for with somebody who may be considering suicide is, firstly, look out for isolation. Are they isolating themselves? Have they distanced themselves considerably? Do they refrain from meeting, talking, coming out, answering phone calls, replying to text messages? That would be the first red flag. Please pay attention to that. Don't just think that, oh, he's moody, she's just being like this, and she just wants bhav. No, no, nobody's voluntarily doing that. Second thing, if you notice that there's a drastic change in the way they perceive life, whether they are hopeful about it or not, and this is something you can sense in the way they talk. So you can be like, they'll be like, what's the point, but what is the point? And they'll say that for even casual things, but if you hear the repetition in that, it could be a sign that if not suicidal, they probably are going through something. So it's not always like, oh, it has to be suicide, but I'm just saying that they're probably going through something for them to lose hope to that degree. And that's worth digging into, that's worth asking about, that's worth caring for. Um, so that, and another, like I would say, one of the most striking signs is if they start getting their things in order, like if they start paying off their bills, start, clearing off, really things that are kept in their house, making a will, things like that, then that's a very straight out sign. But I think before that, you'll definitely notice a lot more signs like their behaviors change. They might change jobs. They might change friend circle. They might isolate themselves completely. You may not have heard from them or seen them in weeks or months. They might tell you casually that what's the point of life? Nobody will miss me when I'm gone. Nobody really cares if I'm here or not. It doesn't impact anyone's life. These are sort of signals that they give generally.
Thank you so much for that. Um, so moving on, you've spoken very strongly in one of your interviews about how you all missed to recognize the suicidal symptoms of a dear friend and you ended up losing them. So do you want to give out some tips so that any of our viewers here do not end up going through the
Mhm.
same thing you did?
Definitely. I would say the one thing that I would really, really recommend everyone to do is if you are struggling yourself, don't talk about it just simply to talk about it. Talk about it because somebody else may hear your story and reach out to you and find solace in your company, in your story, in your experience. Um, and I think that is the biggest mistake I did, where I didn't speak about my experience. I didn't speak about my journey with depression. And if I had, I strongly believe that he would have reached out to me. But I refrained from speaking, so he refrained from speaking. And me being a mental health professional refrained from speaking. So it gave a louder message. So the first and foremost thing I would do is I would say to everyone is that if you are somewhere going through anything, talk about it not for your sake, but for the sake of the people around you, because they might, find a. And the second thing I would say is just treat everyone with compassion. Ask people around, are they okay? Are you okay? How is it going? Are you feeling okay? And it, you know, if you've noticed that your friend is down and low, don't just assume that it could be XYZ reason. Find out, what's the harm, what's the worst that they'll say, Um, and I think this compassion is everything. So if you are if you just look at somebody from the lens of compassion, it changes everything. So, we generally, the mistake that we all make as outsiders in a scenario of mental health is we look at ourselves as superior when someone else is going through a mental illness because we think we are better than them, that we are not suffering and they are suffering. They are weak and we are not. That's how we perceive it. And when we talk to that person, that is something that comes out, even if you don't realize it, it is going to get conveyed to that other person that you think you are superior. And that is the, like 90% of the times, that's the reason why people don't reach out. They don't reach out because they know that you think that you are superior than them. And people who, commit suicide, uh, the statistics say that 75% of them give a signal. So, somebody is not listening, and we all are to be blamed for that.
But having said that, we have a very interesting question in our comments box. So, what do you do how do you distinguish between somebody who is just, I mean, for lack of better word, just trying to get attention and playing the victim card, And how do you draw the line between someone who is reaching out to help in a really subtle way and somebody who is just because depression has been vocalized, symptoms are everywhere. Somebody is just trying to be dramatic about it. So how do you draw the line there? How do you know when somebody really needs the help and somebody does not?
Okay, let's look at it this way. Okay. Let's say the odds of someone seeking attention is 1 in 20. Okay. And it's still fairly reasonable odds. Um, are you going to take that 1% chance to lose somebody just because you think, you perceive, you imagine, or it's your perception of the fact that that person is seeking attention? And guys, seriously, if you want to seek attention, you would not choose the most stigmatized illness on the planet to seek attention. You have a billion other things to seek attention with, and you would choose that. Like I would put a fake plaster on my leg rather than pretending to have depression to seek attention. So please know that if I had to seek attention, that I would not, and think about this yourself, I would not be doing that with something that people anyway think doesn't exist. So it's as simple as that. And also just to look at it as, in your arrogance of the fact that someone is seeking attention or might be seeking attention, you may lose that person, because a lot of people in my friend circle thought that with my friend, but at the end of it, we all know what happened. And so I would just say that, don't take that chance.
Thank you. So let's take a small break here and we'll talk about your initiative because this is of special interest to the Project. Stats on child sexual abuse tell us that 1 in 2 survivors and 50% of the cases go unreported, and we can assume that many of us growing up, looking at the statistics, are growing up with unresolved trauma. The Rakshin Project is working towards building bridges between survivors and mental health professionals. So please share with our viewers what your initiative is and what you are doing.
So we as an organization, we do a lot of things in different sectors, but we do have a subsidized mental health clinic where 5 of us, including 1 psychiatrist and 4 psychologists, we give our time where we barely take any remuneration. And apart from that, we also have a free support group for young adults with mental illnesses, and that is another thing that we do for the community. Apart from that, we do our very best to raise awareness in every sector in terms of doing webinars, seminars, workshops, events, public events, in talks in schools, in colleges, in organizations, in corporates. We even did a very large scale event in a mall because we thought that that was the place that we would be able to get the most number of eyeballs and create the most amount of awareness. So, and it did work. We did have 1,000 people there. So it was something, I would say it's still a drop in the ocean, but still a step ahead. Yeah, apart from that, we do provide reliable solutions. If you need a contact for a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist anywhere in the country, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to redirect you to the most reliable source we have. And that is something that we, as an organization, do. We provide you with like sources in your, right resources in your environment that you need. And yeah, I mean, we do work with corporates and schools as well, where we train teachers to be primary mental health respondents in the case of mental health emergencies. Like specifically in schools, we see that most issues begin there and they're mostly unnoticed because most people don't know what to look out for. And if teachers were trained in that sector to know what to look out for, we would have a lot less, traumatized adults who were in therapy. That's one of our initiatives. We also work with high managerial staff in corporates to train them to be more mental health sensitive, so that the environment in an organization is more mental health friendly, where they can ask for leaves if they are having a rough day in terms of anxiety, depression, or anything of that sort.
So we have another really nice question here. Um,
Mhm.
it says, what do we do if our friend or somebody we know is not in the financial or personal position to actually go to therapy and seek professional help? As an individual, as a friend, how can we be there for them and ensure that at least they're in a better position in as compared to what we found them in? So,
First things first, there are options available for free therapy, for subsidized therapy. Please reach out to us. We'll be happy to provide you with those resources, firstly. Secondly, what you can do as a friend, no professional in the world can do. So please know your role is a billion times more important than what I can do. I paid money to get an education that I studied for 4, 5 years, but your role in somebody's life has so much more value as compared to what my 1 hour of therapy can do. So, and how do you do that? You do that by just listening, by just being there. You don't have to understand, you don't have to have advice, you don't have to have tips, solutions. No, you just have to have a shoulder and a ear, and that's it. And you just sit there and you be there, irrespective of anything, and ensure that that person knows that you're there, irrespective of anything. Come rain, come shine, I will be here holding your hand. You want to go to the therapist, I will be here holding your hand. You don't want to go, I will be here holding your hand. That is your role, which no therapist in the world can play. So please know that you have a lot more value to create than any of us do.
so considering that somebody was able to come out of it, that they were in a better place, there is always trauma which is associated to the particular instance or the particular period of life that they went through. So due to that, especially the Rakshin Project deals with children. So when it comes to children, we have found that they can fall into a severe drug habit that, which can ruin and can hamper their entire life, which is ahead of them because they have a good 30 to 60 years in front of them. So what can he or she do to actually be able to live a normal life in the future and maybe even forget the traumatic experience?
It's a very difficult question, but a supremely important one. I can't say that there's one magic solution. I wish I could say that there is one magic solution, but I can't say that. I would be lying. I would say that every journey, whether it was traumatic or whether it was, everyone's journey in their own perception has some trauma. But I know exactly what you're talking about, so I'm going to leave that other part aside. But every traumatic experience brings about change in perspective, change in belief, change in thought, change in personality. But that change doesn't necessarily have to be bad. And that is a choice we have maybe when we grow a little older. Of course, for children, it's very difficult. But as they grow older, we are not slaves of our past. Our past, we do have free will and choice of how we want to look at it, how we want to perceive it, how we want to act on it today. Yes, at a point, we may have been slaves of the trauma that we were going through. But um, getting older, being means also having the choice of how I want to see my trauma. And there's one of my favorite authors, Andrew Solomon, speaks about this beautiful concept, how the worst things in our life make us who we are, but who they make us doesn't have to be bad, It doesn't have to make us a horrible individual in the sense of lots of anxieties, fear, anger, impulsivity. It doesn't have to have that. It can have it, yes, but it doesn't have to. And that is precisely the power of choosing that now that I'm grown up and the trauma was not me, it was my past self. And to look at my past life with the lens of who I am today, not who I was back then. And that perspective change, can really change your entire trajectory of your life. And I recommend everybody to watch his TED Talk on the worst things in our life make us who we are. It's dramatically changed my own life. Just that one TED Talk, I had to watch it like 10 times to fully grasp it. But I would recommend that to everybody because our trauma is also our strength in a way. And we may not understand that today while we're going through that, but 5, 10, 15 years down the line, the perspective we have from of it might change, and that might prove to be our biggest strength.
Thank you so much. So we are running out of time. So now I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you and all our viewers who have not corresponded with us before about Sakshi. So some of you might know that Sakshi, through its Rakshin project, is in the process of engaging with over 40 lakh youth in our country to stop child sexual abuse. And we have a very simple maxim that we operate on. It's ना करेंगे ना करने देंगे, हो रहा है तो रोक के रहेंगे, अगर हुआ है तो बोल के रहेंगे. So we lay a lot of importance on creative expressions as a resolution mechanism to address the unresolved trauma of child sexual abuse. So I would really like to thank you for coming on board with us today, and it's been a wonderful conversation with you. So thank you so much for that. And
Thank you so much for having me.
we were very glad to have you with us at Sakshi Speak today. Your insights and sharing will go a long way in making sense to our viewers when they look at their own lives and try to make meaning of their personal experiences. Everything you shared with us personally and to all our viewers, it was very helpful, very insightful. So now I would also like to tell you a little about Sakshi's campaign, which is Make Home a Safe Space, which is a keto campaign. So please visit that and encourage us to create a Rakshin in every home, who is capable of de-escalating violence and preventing child sexual abuse. I also invite you and all our viewers to our preview webinar, which is on every Sunday at 3 p.m. And it's for anybody who wants to join the movement against child sexual abuse and become a Rakshin. So Rakshin is a person who is committed to preventing harm and is on about preventing harm and about child sexual abuse. So would you call yourself a Rakshin?
Yes, I would. 100%.
So from one Rakshin to another, thank you and a very good evening.
Thank you so much for having me, and what you guys are doing is wonderful. And I'm definitely going to go and be a part of the Keto Project myself. I'm going to donate, and I recommend all of you to do the same. Thank you so much for having me. You've been wonderful. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Bye bye.